little bit late, and there was a photo opportunity that I had to be part of. So, but without further ado, we're very happy and honored to have as a special guest here at the 25th anniversary of the Dutch Pinball Open Association, whatever you want to call it. Pinball designer for over 40 years, I would think, something like that, or at least in pinball for 40 years. This is not the time to take a selfie.
Don't believe me if people actually showed up.
He's been working for Williams, where he designed most of his games up till lately, but we'll get to
96. I spent 26 years at Williams.
I'll give you a mic and you can do the talking from now on, okay? We'll do this a bit of a sort of a Q&A because, well, we prepared a slideshow and all games that Barry worked on are featured in that slideshow and Barry will talk about them. But it will be more of a Q&A kind of thing. If you guys have any questions about certain games, raise your hand, I'll come up and I'll shove a mic into your face and then you can ask the question. Pardon my French. So, without further ado, Barry Oursler.
Thanks for coming, everybody. So I guess Jonathan's got a slideshow with all the games, so I better turn a little bit so I can see them.
Sit back and relax and so you can watch both. Before we get to your first game, when did you start at Williams?
1970, the day after I graduated high school.
1970?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do at Williams at the time?
I spent like 2.5 years working in the factory back when they're all electromechanical games. Basically, it's doing everything. I started out as a tester, but then I worked different spots in the factory, learning how to build the motors, build the relays, wind coils, make switches, everything. Just basically learned every step of the game.
Right. So at what point did you have any aspiration to design a game yourself?
Usually a few years later, I went up to engineering. I got offered a job up there as a technician building the games for the designers, wiring the games, building the play fields, testing them, and then after a few years I had some ideas for a game and asked them if I can do a game. They said go ahead and do it, so I built Phoenix. And then it all started from there.
So here we have Phoenix. This is the back glass. For most games I have a picture of the back glass and I have a picture of the playfield
But I
separately.
can see your screen now too, so that helps me. I don't have to turn around.
Right. So here we have the playfield of Phoenix. So anything you recall about designing that game? Or any stories that you'd like to share about that?
Mostly it was exciting just getting to do my first game, you know, and I worked with the artist Constantino Mitchell, and I told him what I wanted the theme to be, and he came up with this crazy picture of this Birdman. A lot of people liked it, and some people hated it. Some people complained about the color of the cabinet. Why is it pink? It just seemed to fit the theme, you know, and everybody, you know, at the company liked it. So.
Right. That's important.
Yeah.
It didn't do, well, actually did quite well, over 6,000 units.
Mm-hmm.
So, recall, were you excited about that kind of number?
Yeah, I was. I mean, especially for the first time. At least it wasn't a flop.
Right. So, since this was your first game, were you looking at previous designs, what other designers had done, and you tried to incorporate that, or did you really go with your own ideas?
And I try to do more of my own ideas as much as I can. I mean, the other games before that were all simple games like this one. You know, later on the games got more complicated, but I always just try to put my own touch on the games, my own different types of shots on there, you know, the way I lay the playfield out.
Right. Do you remember how long it took you to design this?
I mean, from concept to production was less than a year.
Right.
I mean, games, I mean, I can do 2 or 3 games in a year back then, because they were a lot easier to do. You didn't have to deal with all the heavy programming and the sounds and the music and speech and everything else we have in the games now.
Right.
Jonathan, a question. Yeah, am I allowed to? I mean, maybe it was too soon.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, but, your game is finished when the first few pinball machines come over the line.
Right.
you will work on another project. How do you watch these numbers? I mean, now you have internet, you can see it maybe straight away. Does Barry or Williams inform you, in this case, Williams, how much games they sell? I mean, this is quite a lot of run, and yeah, you have to know it. Maybe you are interested.
I mean, we started out with building like 10 games, and we put them out on test just to play the games to see how well the games work before we build more. Then we built, I think, like 100 games and ship them all over the world so other countries can test them. And then I guess they wait and see what kind of orders they get. We try to do this while we're running another game at the same time, so there's no lapse in production. So we'll ship them to Germany, France, Belgium, Holland, everywhere, and that's where they start getting the initial orders. If they like the games, they may order 1,000 games or just 100 games. And then they kind of keep us in touch, letting us know that the game's doing well.
Gives you a good feeling.
Yeah.
So if we move on to the next one, that would be Time War, which has a very busy backlog. Almost hurts the eyes. Sorry, Constantino, but so this one did even better, despite the artwork. 1979. So there was like 8 months, 9 months in between this one and the previous one.
Right. But there were other games that other people made in between too. I think Steve Ritchie had
Sure.
done Flash around that time.
Right. You know. So, but you were at that time a full-time designer, or were you still working on assisting other designers?
Once I started on Phoenix, I was kind of on my own then.
Okay. Any fun recollections of Time War? How was the theme chosen? Who picked the theme? Was that Connie or was that you?
I mean, I just kind of picked the theme, and he came up with the idea for the artwork. Kind of looked like a wizard almost on there. I think this one had the banana flippers, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right here at the bottom.
Not because I wanted them. They had leftover flippers from Disco Fever, and it was the next game management says, we want them in this game. So people just took them off and changed them if they didn't like them.
Right.
I didn't like them either because it's too hard to make the shots. You can make good reverse shots, but you can't shoot something on the left side with the right flipper.
Well, also, did everybody or people, did they play with the banana flippers? The interesting thing is that the flipper has a curve, but if the ball is rolling down the in lane, the ball doesn't follow the curve.
Yeah. That was the problem with it, I think. But they wanted it because they had them left over from Disco Fever.
Right. Well,
That's their thinking.
I don't want to make any suggestions regarding Guardians of the Galaxy, but it appears to be a tactic still being used today. So, one of the games you're probably most known for was next, which is Gorgar. Gorgar was the first talking pinball machine
Right.
with a vocabulary of 7 words. Right.
Difficult to understand also.
Yeah.
Those were primitive electronics, I would imagine. But you were basically, as I understood it, working on this game, and speech became available, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it came available at the same time I had the game designed, and they offered me the speech. I said, sure, take it, you know. Even though it was limited, I mean, it's like a baby learning how to talk.
Right. But still, 14,000 units, that was on the line for a long time.
Right, I think that was my biggest selling game.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the first games to have a magnet on it, too.
Right.
It was before MagnaSave and all the other magnet features we had.
Right. The magnet was in the upper left corner, if I recall
Right, you
correctly.
shoot it and it grabs the ball and says, me got you. And I'm sure everybody remembers the heartbeat that was on the game. It just kept thumping faster and faster. We had it at the show, I remember. We had about 12 games up on the stage at the AMOA show. And we had these huge tower speakers and probably 1,000 watts in each one. And we just drowned out the whole show. And Sam Stern had his booth next to ours, and they came over crying that nobody can hear their games.
And did that sound in the heartbeat, was that your idea of people who worked with you, or was it just technical people who said, we can have speech, do you want it in your game, or who requested it?
I mean, they offered the management basically, you know, engineers had it done and management knew that we had speech available, so they offered that to me, and then we always had some kind of a background sound, whether it was just a droning sound, or we decided to put a heartbeat with the monster in there instead. It's kind of like a team thing.
Right. Speaking of team thing, at this point, so far, and also with the upcoming games, you worked with Constantino Mitchell and his wife, Janine,
Right.
for the artwork. Was Constantino working as a freelancer, or did he work at Williams, and how did you interact with each other regarding artwork on games?
Yeah, he got hired at Williams around the time I started designing games. I think Phoenix was one of the first projects he worked on.
Right.
And his wife worked at home as a freelancer, cutting the screens. But he was a full-time artist. We had Tony Ramone there at the time, and another guy named Seamus McLaughlin. We had like our 3 in-house artists. Because before they were doing everything at this company called Advertising Posters. We would just give them a name for a game, and they'd come up with some artwork and send it to us.
Right.
But we want to start incorporating the games with the artwork now.
Right. So did you and Connie go back and forth over the artwork, or did you more or less let him do it?
I mean, I basically give him an idea of what I want to do with the game, and he would make sketches of the artwork and maybe where to place the lights on the game to tie in, you know, with the characters on there.
Right.
You know, like I knew I wanted like, you know, 10 lights, so he'd somehow fit it into, you know, one of the creatures there, or whatever game it happens to be.
Right. So,
I did, I don't know, half a dozen games at least with him, maybe more.
yeah. So did you reject artwork? Then you came up with something and were like, no, this is definitely not where I want to take it.
I mean, there might have been a couple times you made some changes on the sketches and stuff, but not after it got to any big point, you know.
Right. Okay. So Gorgar, and then you followed up with Laser Ball.
Right, all 3 of those they were all done in the same year. Those 3 games.
Actually, Laser Ball came out a month after Gorgar, I think.
I did Gorgar,
Same month,
Time
actually.
Warp, and Laser Ball all in '79.
Right. So this is the same month, but no speech. Does that mean that I got the order wrong and that Laser Ball was prior to Gorgar?
They were really close. I mean, we might have had Laser Ball done around the same time, but Gorgar might have been like a little bit after, you know, when we actually had the game done, but production might have been sooner on Laser Ball.
Right.
Because I think they ran the wide bodies on a separate line.
Well, speaking of wide bodies, I was going to ask, these are extremely wide bodies.
Yeah, I think they were 26 inches.
Right. So was it difficult for you to design these games because they are wider, but the flippers usually don't reach as wide?
I know, that's why when I did Laser Ball, I tried to lay it out like a narrow game. If you look at all the shots on it, everything is more centered toward the middle of the game, and the outside edges is not a lot of shots. I wanted to make it play like a narrow body game. I even put the slingshots in the same position and just put extra drain lanes on the side, or return lanes. Because some of the other games, it was so much open space in them.
Right. So any other stories you recall about Laser Ball?
Originally, it was going to be a bowling game.
Which makes sense.
We were going to call it Williams Lanes, and we even had some artwork done with Mike Stroll, who's the president, in the back glass with all these girls around him, almost like Hugh Hefner at a bowling alley.
Seems like a good idea.
I mean, they're all over there rubbing his belly and stuff in the pictures.
Because when we go bowling, everybody rubs their belly.
I mean, I had a copy of the artwork, but it got lost over the years. I think I might have left it behind when I left Williams.
Right. So, but the insert in the center of the playfield are still laid out like
Like a bowling alley, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Just kind of rethemed it, you know, made it more space oriented.
okay. And again, artwork by Connie Mitchell.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, a question.
How could you make 2 pinball machines in 1 year when today it takes manufacturers 2 or 3 or more years to make one pinball machine? How were the work conditions at Barry Williams back then?
Well, at Williams, we had I mean, a full production school. We had multiple engineers, you know, mechanical engineers there, several programmers. We had our own model shop. You need parts for the game, they'd make it, and then you have the parts the next day. Now you want something, you gotta wait weeks or months to get parts. And the programming was a lot simpler back then on the games. You didn't have all the sounds and the speech and the music. And, and making the shots in the game were simpler. There's no ramps, not a lot of ball guides on it. It was just a lot easier. The thing is, the more people you have to work on it, the faster you can get it done.
I have another question.
Yeah, it's a follow-up basically. You say in that time the layout and the rules were a bit simpler. So did you come up with the layout yourself and already have the rules set in mind? And how did that evolve over the D&D years?
It's usually a little bit of both. I mean, when you lay out a game, sometimes you try to tie it in with the name of the game. Have certain shots maybe that'll spell out something on there. But once we get the game laid out, then I'd usually work on the rules, what I want everything to do. And I think on the later games, we might have done some of the rules maybe earlier, depending on what the game is.
So is that a collaboration with the programmer then, or do you do it yourself?
Back then, most of it was the designer that did that. Now, like the last games I did, I was working with the programmer. Like when I did Junkyard or Whodunit, the programmer had a lot of input on, what to do with the rules or some of the features on the game. I would do all the mechanical parts, but he had ideas, what to do to make the game better. Maybe put different types of modes in there or something,
So your next game was another wide body, Scorpion, which, this was mid-1980. Production numbers started slowly dropping because the video game
I think that was Tony Ramone that did the artwork on that one, before he went to Bally.
It says here, still Constantino Mitchell. But- Antonio Ramone, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So, any other stories you remember about this game, and why did the whole wide body concept end, so to speak?
I don't even know why he ever started. I remember Steve Kordick did Pokerino, and then all of a sudden they wanted to start making more wide bodies. So Steve Ritchie did Stellar Wars, and then I did Laser Ball, and I did this one, but then I was getting tired of them too.
Right, well, at that time, Atari had sort of started it as being the first with the wide bodies, and I think the other manufacturers sort of jumped on that bandwagon.
Right, everybody did that once you start doing something.
Right.
But it just took a lot more stuff on the games too. It'd be a more expensive game because it's bigger, you got more parts on it.
Well, that's the next question I want to ask, because here you have a 4-flipper game. Basically, you have something like what could have been an upper playfield with 2 flippers on its own.
Right.
How important was it to stay within the budget of a bill of materials at that time?
I mean, every game we do, they always wanted a certain amount, but they don't always tell you what it is until you're over it. So we'd always put extra parts in the game so we can take them off. Every game we put drop targets on the game, but only half of them probably ever kept them. We need $50 out of the game to take the drop targets out, put stand-up targets in, as long as you get the toys you want on the game.
Well, once you know how to play management, then.
Yeah. It's like being married. That's how I lasted 41 years.
The next game is Jungle Lord, which is actually a 2-level game. I got a couple of questions about this, but I will let you talk about the game first.
That's Connie Mitchell again.
Right?
And he always tries to use himself and his wife as models for everything. Of course, he never had muscles like that.
He was very flattering on himself.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing on Gorga. If you look at any of the games, it's like the same character.
Right. Good to know.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions I have, you probably can see, but if we, Jungle Lord apparently came out with a red cabinet and a blue cabinet. You remember why and what why it was chosen for a different color?
I don't know, it's like most of the games, we'd make 2 or 3 different cabinets in different colors just to see which one people liked the most, you know, especially in management.
Right.
But I remember one story when Ted Finezza was president of Williams, and we were out in several cabinets, different colors, and he was saying, well, I like this one better, but how would he know? He's colorblind.
Well, you could still like it better.
Yeah, but it's the exact same cabinet if it all looks black and white to you.
Right. So, well, this is a 2-level game. Was that extra complicated for you?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, that's the whole thing started with, I think Black Knight was the first one.
Right.
So everybody started doing a 2-level game. We did them, Bally did them, Gottlieb was doing them.
Right.
But you just almost take the back half of the playfield and raise it up, because you can't really do much underneath this, except maybe have an occasional loop shot, because you can't see anything on the bottom.
Right.
So it really wasn't that much harder to say. You had to put more parts on or more flippers, you had to put some kind of ramps on the game now to get the ball up there.
Right. I think Williams put out like 4 2-level games in a row. Wasn't that a bit overkill?
It seemed to be popular at the time. People were buying them, so they kept doing them. I think as long as they're selling, they're going to keep making different ones. And I think Pharaoh was another one they did.
I'm trying to think of the 4th.
Well, I did Solar Fire.
Right. And this is probably the next one.
Black Knight was the first one.
Which is actually the next one. Solar Fire. So here we have well, different layouts, still 2 levels. So how did you come up with a theme like Solar Fire?
Really, there was a record album out, and that was the title of the album, Solar Fire. And I liked the name. It was a band, Manfred Mann's Earth Band. They
Right.
put an album out back in the 70s.
Right.
I think they put several albums out, but I just liked the name Solar Fire, and I thought it'd be a good like Star Wars type theme for a game.
Right.
'Cause
And
that was getting popular around the same time, you know, Star Wars and Star Trek.
so did the artwork resemble anything that had to do with the album, or was it just the name that you used?
It was just a name. Didn't really have anything to do with the record album, but just that I liked the name.
Right.
If I made a game called Jonathan or whatever, you know.
That would be a good game.
It may not have anything to do with you though. It could be a robot or something named Jonathan.
Could be anything. So,
Any questions in
the audience? Yeah?
I'm not sure this game has it, but you have this Magna save, eh? Is it patented or things like that if you use a game and, for example, Williams has the patent of the Magna save, or did you find it out, or how does things like this work? You know, that we have this, so we have to put it in our game because it's our patent and it will sell well.
I mean, I started with Gorgar with the magnet, and then Steve Ritchie had an idea to put Magna Save on the drains to save the ball. And then I think with this game, I'm not sure if it was this one or not, I took it a step further and had 3 lights on it for each magnet. So you can just tap it and save the other ones. If you want to actually hold the ball, then you hold the flipper in, but it would count out all your steps you had left on it. But sometimes you make it 3 chances to save the ball if you play it right. So we just always try to play on whatever we had out there. You know, some people would use features that other designers had in their games because they were good features.
You can use it from other designers. I mean,
Yeah, certain things. There's other things maybe it's special for a certain game, you don't really use them. But like when I did the bank on Pinbot, a lot of people started putting 3 banks on. I think Steve Ritchie had on Black Knight 2000, and I think Mouse and Around and some other games had a little bank on there like that. Because I mean, it was already designed, all you had to do is make a different size target carrier.
Any other questions at the moment? No? Okay, we'll move forward to Barry Oursler, which I think is an interesting game. Just for those who are not familiar with the artwork, apparently that's Brooke Shields. But if you take away the eyebrows, nobody sees who it is. And, this is artwork by Doc Watson. So here you have the game, and this game was originally designed by Roger Sharp and
Steve Epstein.
Steve Epstein. And so how did you fit into that?
Well, they brought me a drawing that they had made up and wanted me to build a game for them, and I told them that the game looks like a piece. It's not going to work, but they wanted to build it anyway. So I drew the game up the way they had it. I built the game, and they played it, and they agreed. So I said I'll make you a whole new drawing for it, and just basically redesign the game.
And did you keep anything of what they had?
There might have been a couple little pieces, but I mean not a lot.
Right. So would you say this is a Roger Sharp game, or is it more a Barry Oursler game?
I mean they kind of came up with the original idea to do the game, so I mean we all got credit for it.
Actually, strategy-wise, if you dive into the rules, this game was very ahead of its time. Were you aware of that at the time, or were you not involved with the rules at all?
I was, but I don't really remember too much about it.
Okay, well,
That was a long time ago. You get a couple dozen games in your head, it's hard to remember them.
right. So this one you might want to take a look at. Oh, excuse me.
The Barracuda was originally designed as a Las Vegas theme, hence the double R in bar. I think I read it somewhere.
As a what game?
As a Las Vegas, because you have 3 stand-ups on the left and 5 on the right.
Honestly don't remember, it possibly might have been.
Actually, I can confirm that because that's what Roger told me as well, which
Okay.
you can read about in Pinball Magazine #1.
On sale now.
So no, originally the Barracuda started out as Las Vegas, and I think they had another name.
Barracuda.
Well, Barracuda was
Right.
changed into Barracuda, but in between that there was another name, a two-word name. Don't remember which one, but I could look it up in Pinball Magazine #1 because it's probably in there. So you might want to take a look at this Backlash because that's a game that didn't get made as such. Dragonfly.
Right. The game was made, but not as Dragonfly.
Right.
And we had this glass made in like 3 or 4 different colors. We were trying different color combinations to see which one looked the best.
Right, I remember seeing a purple one as well.
Yeah.
It ended up being Cosmic Gunfight.
Right, that was kind of a management decision too. They wanted to go with a space theme instead of what I had on Dragonfly.
Right.
Which I don't know why.
Well, we have to bring in management then,
Yeah.
see if they remember. So, but here we're back to the single level games. Was that more comfortable for you designing, or was it all the same for you?
It wasn't a big difference. It was probably easier, but still able to do a lot with the game though. I think it's had like 5 rollover lanes on it. I think it was like 2 sections, wasn't it? Like a 3-lane and a 2-lane on there.
Yes.
And just try to put, different types of rules on it. That little 3 bank of targets and the stand-up targets was sort of like a mini pinball thing that didn't move. You had like 9 targets there.
Right. So you got the
3 over here and then 3 drop targets in front of the pop-up list.
Right.
so
But the other targets, you had to hit them certain ones, depending on where the arrow was pointing, you get a target in a different row.
Ja,
Like-
er zit een gereedje van 9 inserts zit er van.
yeah, there's a small matrix underneath the
Right.
the stand-up target. So at this around this time, some games had multiple, others didn't. Was there a certain policy for that?
No, usually it was up to the designer what they wanted. And some games are 2 and 3 ball multi-ball, and other ones we sometimes just wanted a simple 1-ball game.
Right.
I think this one had multi-ball, didn't it though?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could lock it in the upper.
Yeah, if you see a lock light, then you know it's multi-ball.
Right. Any questions about Cosmic Gunfight? Not. Spellbinder.
That's another one that never really got made. We made a few samples. It was just going to be the sequel to Hyperball.
Right.
Which they thought was going to take off, and they ordered thousands of parts for Hyperball.
Right.
But then when I guess it started crashing, they decided they're not going to make this game.
Which we see in subsequent games.
Right.
This was the playfield for Spellbinder, which is actually a flipperless game. It's got smaller balls which are basically being shot with a gun.
Right, it's like a cannon, it just keeps firing, rapid fire. I think it had like 50 balls in the game.
Like a Pachetino or Japanese games.
No,
It
those
was
are
like a
vertical.
machine gun. It had a thing that would just keep feeding them back, and the faster you can pull the handle, it would just keep shooting balls.
Was that fun to play?
It was fun though.
I
It was
think
like a
that-
shooting game basically. Right, a skill, 'cause you had to either aim at the holes or aim at the targets, and there was a feature, remember the old gun games where you shoot the bear and then he runs the other way? We had a dragon doing that in the back, so you had to try and hit him and make him go the other way before he runs off.
Okay, but this never got made, so.
No. I think they made a half a dozen of them, that was it.
Well, at least we still have the pictures.
Yeah.
Defender was next, which was based on the very popular video game.
Mhm.
And what you also can see here, as we have the image of the back glass in the back box, I'd like to point out that these trims, these back boxes were basically leftovers from Hyperball, which is
Mhm.
why the back glass shape, the size is different than previous back glasses, and it has these metal grill below it. So,
Right, we're trying to basically make a video game out of a pinball machine, because video was taken over and pinball was dying, so we figured maybe we can cash in on the video mode, on the video
great.
fad or whatever you wanna call it.
So here we have the playfield. This is a very low production run, 369 games. Not sure if there's one present here, but
It's probably the heaviest playfield we ever made too,
how come?
because it had it had 2 5-banks of drop targets with individual reset coils on it. It had a couple more single drop targets with separate coils. I mean, we had twice as many coils as any other game. And there weren't enough drivers, so we had to put a relay in there to switch back and forth.
Right.
There might have been like, I don't know, 40 coils or whatever, and you're only supposed to use 20.
So would you say management was sort of desperate to get something out that would sell?
I think so, plus we tried to make it play like the video game. Like when it would come down and pick up your people, we had the same thing with the drop targets. If you don't hit it fast enough, they start taking more people, and then you gotta hit more targets. We had smart bombs on the game. If you do certain things, you light a certain target, and you have a button you can push, and it would basically kill everything on the playfield. So it would play almost like a video game, as far as the rules.
Right. But still with mechanical ball handling. Sounds
Right.
like a great idea, actually.
It was a fun game.
I have played it, but can't recall it, but I believe you. So, that's not the only time that you did a game based on a video game. Not sure if the next one is. This is a Rat Race, which is not a pinball game, but I figured I'd show it anyway, because I have no clue how to play it, and I hope you can explain it. Basically what we have here is a 2-player cabinet with each player having a joystick, and the playfield can be tilted.
Right, like you ever played the labyrinth games, the little wooden ones, and you turn the knob and guide the ball? We did it with a joystick. You have an 8-way joystick, and the playfield can tilt in any direction, and you're trying to guide the ball through the maze.
Right.
Except you're a rat doing this. You start out in the sewer, and you have to work your way up, almost like the game of life, where you're trying to get money and do this and do that, and trying to get to like the 5th level.
Right. So if you would be playing this with 2 players, would both joysticks be activated at the same time so the other player could?
No, you play first, and then once I think it ran on time. You only had like 30 seconds or a minute, and you can pick up extra time depending how fast you go through the maze, and then it would stop, and then the other player would take over. The playfield would just kind of tilt and hold the ball and wait for you. Then the second player, as soon as he moved the joystick, it would start his clock.
Right.
So the faster you get through it, the more points you get. And if you can keep hitting certain levels on there, it'll keep adding time.
Okay. It sounds very interesting. Sadly, only 10 were made. I think several still exist today, so.
Right, we're just trying to come up with ideas for other types of games, you know, because pinball wasn't doing well.
Right.
So I worked on 3 or 4 different little projects, just to fill the time and make something.
Right.
And hopefully something will take off.
Right. Well, same with Spellbinder.
Right, I mean, this could have been a good game too if they sold enough, you know.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why is it only 10? So I assume that they tested this in the field. At least 10. It was not successful at all because it looked like a fun game.
Right, we only make like 10 at a time just to test them. If it doesn't test well, they don't bother
The test
anymore
wasn't
then.
successful. Or the test was successful, but the results weren't.
Right. I mean, it was a fun game, but it wasn't making enough money, I guess.
Mhm.
People rather had the video games.
I was going to say you were fighting video basically.
I know, you're fighting Defender and Pac-Man and whatever else is out there.
So, still, was it a creative challenge for you to come up with something like this because it's different than pinball?
And what happened was I had a mechanical engineer who just been working on projects on his own, and he came up with this mechanism, you know, an XY mechanism that can move things, but he had nothing to do, didn't know what to do with it. I told him I can make a game out of that. So I decided just to make a maze game.
So, do you remember how long you worked on this?
I mean, once he had the mechanism developed, the game didn't take that long, probably just a few months, just to figure out what I want to put on it. The longest thing I think was getting all the molds made, because a lot of those parts were injection molded, so we can just pop a whole section in there at one time.
Time Fantasy was next. Also again using hyperball leftover cabinets.
Right.
So, apparently, according to my research, this game was designed in 2 weeks and intended as a low budget game.
Right, I think it was just a single level, single ball game.
Right.
And it didn't take long to design it though, no.
I think the number of coils in there is like limited to 6 or something.
Right, they just want to make a game they can make extra money on it, you know, just make it cheaply, but have a game that was fun to play.
Right.
Just keep, you know, like a low budget on it.
Was it fun to play?
It was fun, yeah.
Okay.
It was a good game.
Slightly increasing sales 608, which still is not a lot.
But nothing sold back then, that was a problem in the early 80s.
Right. But Williams was still selling video games. So
They were making money on video games at the time, and pinball, they were just barely keeping alive for like 4 or 5 years.
Right. So here we have another interesting head-to-head concept, Joust. Again based on a popular video game. And here you can either play it as a single player or as a 2-player game, which is interesting because as a single player, basically the flippers of the second player will
Flip the opposite direction too,
Right.
so you can play both sets of flippers. We had to figure a way out to do it for one person,
right. So
but you get all the points then instead.
right. In my notes, I found that originally this game was named Conflict.
Yeah, originally, but then somebody had mentioned, why don't we do it as a Joust game, because we're doing a head-to-head game, and Joust video has just been out around the same time.
Right.
So we figured that we can use the theme then,
Right.
and maybe it would sell more.
Okay. So who came up with the idea to do a head-to-head game? Was it like we need to have something different, or?
Yeah, that was me, because like I said, I did Rat Race, I did, you know, this and Spellbinder, just something else to compete with video games, because pinball just wasn't doing well. I'd still do a pinball and then do something else in between.
Okay. It's a very fun game to play, actually.
Mhm.
I played it recently. If you can find one, then
Yeah, the playfield is kind of tilts like this.
Right.
So you can just kind of go over the hump. Yeah.
Got a question about this era when pinball was doing very well. Nederlands, ja. Vielen er op dat moment al ontslagen, raakten die collega's kwijt.
Okay, at this point in time, where there are already layoffs and colleagues being let go due to pinball not selling as well as it
I
used to.
believe, I think it was 83, they laid off, I think like 25 people in engineering. In fact, that's when Connie Mitchell got laid off, I remember that time, and a bunch of other people. A few people from engineering, a lot of people even from down in the offices and stuff.
Okay. And once pinball would pick up, would they rehire those people if they were available, or?
I don't remember anybody coming back. They might have hired new people.
Right. Okay, so this was 83.
Right.
Here, well, it's very difficult to see, I apologize for that. Here we have a drawing for a game that was probably never made, called Starfighter.
Right.
Do you remember anything about it?
All I really had was a whitewood on that. I think this is the one that had the 10 lanes in the back, up on top.
Yeah, it could probably be.
I had like a 4-inch piece of plexiglass tubing cut in half, and it was like a scoop. So I had an upper playfield, and all the shots would go up to the top then. It would just kind of hook around. And you had to try and get the different lanes up there.
Right.
Just like you done it.
Yeah, sort of like that, right. That's where I kind of decided to use that feature on Whodunit. So this was across the whole playfield.
Yeah.
So, and any reason why it never got beyond the whitewood stage?
I know, I just made it and it just didn't seem like it was fun. I mean, I did a lot of games like that. I just scrapped them. I built it up and didn't like it, throw it away and make something new.
Right, okay. So we never know what it would have been like.
Right.
Okay. So
If I don't like it, nobody's gonna like it then.
Starlight, which is from 84, June 84. Only 100 made.
Mhm. It was more of a filler game. They were kind of in a hurry for a game, and what I did is I took the layout I had for Laser Ball
Right.
and just made a narrow version of it. It just came up with a new theme for it.
Right.
So like, you know, Pinbot and Jackbot, they're the same game, but just different rules.
Right.
Because they wanted a game in a hurry. This is one of the games that was made around the same time Space Shuttle was. We had this ready, I had Space Shuttle ready, I think Mark Ritchie had Sorcerer ready.
Right.
All around that same time.
Right.
So they had to decide what game they want to make next. So this, it really came out after Space Shuttle. It was ready before Space Shuttle, but it wasn't built until after.
Okay. So here we get the Space Shuttle. Before we get into Space Shuttle, there is this rumor or story that I heard that at some point at Williams, pinball was doing so poorly, there was like a 9-month period where no pinballs were made. Is that correct?
I believe that was pretty much right around that long.
Right. So, and then they decided to pick up again. Was there any reason why they figured like let's pick up pinball again?
I mean, they took a look at all the games that were in process, right? I said this was ready. I had Starlight ready, and then Mark had his game ready, and they decided we're going to look at which game they think has the best potential, and that's going to basically have to make it, or else we're shutting pinball down.
Right. And that's when you came up with Space Shuttle.
Right. I didn't come up with the theme for it. I came up with the game layout, though.
Right. The idea was by Joe
It
Chemical.
was Joe Camico and Larry DeMar came to me with a playfield drawing on a napkin they drew up in a restaurant. It was sort of like the Barracuda thing. You know, can you build this game for me? Yeah, but it's a piece of crap. Okay, can you build it anyway?
Sure, I got nothing better to do.
Right. It didn't take long to build something up. I mean, just look at what they had. It's just draw it up, okay, make it. Had it for them in a couple of weeks, and it was no good.
And then what happened?
So now I decided, let me just relay out the whole playfield, make a whole new game out of it. We'll keep the theme, but just change the playfield layout.
Right. And that sort of became the game that kept the Williams line going.
Yeah, it helped, and then after that, everything started getting better for everybody. It's the first game that had plastic ramps on it.
It's also the first game that had a playfield toy.
Right.
And we have a couple of questions. So whose idea was to put that toy on there?
That was kind of a joint thing between me and Joe Camico.
The flipper figures on the top very small. The other flippers, the flipper fingers very tall. This is the first with on the top be a little small.
Nee.
Waarom hier smaller zijn, die zijn er niet. There's only two flippers in this.
There's only two flippers, there's no upper flippers on this game.
No, die Form ist
So the shape is different.
dick, genau, die ist dick.
It's got this. Okay, it's thicker. What do you mean? So what form?
Ja, und warum die dünner geworden sind, der ist da drauf gekommen.
From the flipper.
It's like your games from the flippers onto the top.
We get the audience.
They got
answering
wider.
questions now.
Here it's like the playfield is narrowing to the top. That's the change. Like laser ball from the flippers, the playfield gets wider to the top. On this one, it just gets narrower. Was that an idea or a new?
Yeah, I just wanted to put different shots. When we start working with ramps like this, you know, you kind of have to have a lot more stuff in the middle now. So you put a nice shot at the middle, but then put the targets on the side where if you sweep it at one time, you get an extra bonus for it, and then the spinner back there. Just try to put a lot of nice features on the game and just try to make the best game we could, because this was it. Life or death.
So was there any licensing involved yet? Did NASA have an opinion on this table?
I mean, we had to get approved, but I don't think the license costs us anything. It's the first time the government ever gave us anything for free.
How was the relationship to your competitors at the, let's say, especially in the late 70s, early 80s? I think at this time Williams was, from the technical point of view, far ahead compared to Barley, for example, but they did catch up pretty fast, I guess. And was there something like a strategy or mission statement? Yeah, Williams always has to be better than Barley because we are doing something, I don't know.
I think a lot of people complained about it, you know, but we were still friends with everybody, still talk to them or have dinner with the competitors, you know. You just don't tell them what you're working on, because then they'd steal it.
So you just, okay.
But I mean, everybody knew that Williams had the best designers at the company, and we made the best games, you know. And they were all trying to compete, so we gave them a reason to do better.
So it sounds like after you became a designer, you were still very hands-on with building the whitewoods. And did all the designers do this, or how much was done on paper and how much was figured out after the whitewoods was done?
I mean, usually when I would design a game, I would take it and just build up just a simple whitewood with just the ball guides, the bumpers, the kickers on it, just so the game plays. And just take it up in the office and play around with it for a couple weeks and make adjustments, move the ball guys, make everything smoother. And then after that, we build up a whole game with all the changes in it, and then actually have somebody else build the game up then. We had our own model shop that would build the games for us then. You just give them the drawing and they'll put all the parts, but you go down there and just direct them what to do with it, because you know, they didn't really know where everything's supposed to go yet either. Then somebody would wire the game up and we give it to the programmer, then actually really play it with rules, but no artwork. And then once we're kind of satisfied, then you can have the artist start doing playfield artwork. But in between, they can do the backlash, they can do the cabinet artwork. So they got stuff to do while they're waiting for a playfield. And you get them involved in it when you want to start putting the lights on the game, so it ties in with the artwork. Like in Space Shuttle, we had the little matrix in the bottom there. You know, they say, let's do this so we can do a spell out or something on the game.
Right. Actually, the matrix spelled out the word space.
Right. You have to watch it, because a lot of people don't even notice it, you know.
Right.
But if you watch, it'll spell
Actually,
one after another.
Well, we did this poster, which is based on the flyer of the game.
Yeah.
And actually, it's on the poster that made me realize, like, the grid is spelling out S-P-A-C-E.
Right.
Right. question brings me to the following, because, so this is a game that basically Joe and Larry asked you, like, okay, here's a napkin and make it work. But that sort of became a role that you got to play a lot more often at Williams, where other designers had something going and they needed you. And what I understood was they used to call you the fast around because nobody could draw the place was quicker than you did.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, when they needed a game, they'd come to me because they knew Steve wasn't going to have his game ready for another 6 months. And that's just to finish the first one, and I do the whole game in 6 months then.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes people overthink things. I mean, Steve's a great guy; he always does a great game, but sometimes it just takes too long.
Right. And then they would come knocking on your door. Yeah, Barry, we need a game. Knock one out.
That happens.
Right. So we're scheduled to be talking till 6, and then do the quiz. It's 6 now. We have another seminar session scheduled for tomorrow. So are there any questions at the moment? I mean, we can do 1 or 2 more games, but then we have to go get to the quiz.
One maybe question. So you stopped at Williams in 1996?
Right.
So what was your involvement in pinball after that? Are you still doing something in it?
I am now, but for about 15 years, I had nothing to do with pinball. There was nowhere to go. Stern was the only company around, and they weren't really hiring any more designers. I didn't start doing something until about 3 years ago with Highway, when I talked to Andrew and wanted me to do a game with him.
I'll get to you in a second.
The original idea for Junkyard was putting together used pinball parts. What was the initial idea that ultimately became Junkyard?
Yeah, originally that's what I wanted to do. I was trying to take like different features from all the games and just make it into like a pinball junkyard. But when I started looking at the parts and the sizes of them, I just couldn't put enough stuff on there. So I decided to just make it like a real junkyard. Put old cars, old refrigerators in there. But then just make it more fun. You know, so we couldn't put a car crusher, so I decided to put a wrecking ball in there. Just take the ball and smash the cars up. Then we took one of the old like VW buses and made a time machine out of it. Just to add a little extra level to it. Put a junkyard dog in the game.
So I have a question about being a pinball designer. I can imagine that starting in the 70s when you started as a designer, that it's just your work. But when were you being recognized as an artist, as a designer, that people recognized you, showed interest in your work, etc.? So I'm talking about more in public, not in the company, but in public.
I think like the late 80s, early 90s when they started recognizing like all the designers, like they started looking for games. I want the next Barry Oursler game, I want the next Steve Ritchie game or Pat Lawler game, and people were actually looking for them.
Yeah, and the end of the 80s. Yeah.
Right, like the late 80s, early 90s when it started.
Okay.
And the thing I would hate is some designers, not to mention names, would call up the distributors and tell them, don't buy this game, I got a new game coming out in a couple months.
Really? Yeah.
It will cut your game short. I think Pinbot probably would have sold 15,000 instead of 12.
Yeah. Wow.
That's what fans are for.
Yeah, those are the industry trade secrets that nobody knows about. So, any more trade secrets you want to share? Else?
Not if I want to live.
So, I think, we got another question.
Did you get any bonuses paid when the game sold very good, or?
At the beginning, they would just give us like a bonus at the end of the year if the game did well, but starting with, I think it might have been like after Space Shuttle, they started giving us royalties on every game then. You get so much per game, and the more the game sold, the higher the level would go. Like if you only gave you like $3 a game for the first 4,000, then the next 4,000 might be $6 a game, and then it would go up to $10 a game. So like when they did Addams Family, I think Pat Lawler probably got $250,000 just for bonuses for 20,000 games, plus the salary.
Now these are the secrets.
I don't think Stern does that though.
Well, you could try and introduce it at Highway.
I intend to.
What is the main feature which you wanted to have in a game, but which was cut away due to costs?
I'm not sure. I mean, every game they took something out of it. I can't remember any big feature. I mean, we had a lot of things that took out, like in Doctor Who, we had the moving Dalek head. They took that out because of cost. And then people were making them as an option. And you know, Fire, we always had I had the extra wheels in the back, and we only put that on the Champagne edition. But I can't remember any big special features, because the whole thing was try and keep the special features and take out the drop targets.
Drop the
And
targets.
management never caught up to that, like, hey, you do this every time. And you still got away with that?
Yeah, we all did.
You have to drop the targets.
If you look back at your career, what are you most proud of adding to the pinball machine? Are there any Oursler things?
I mean, some of the features, like the time expander on Doctor Who and the magnet on Dracula, those are probably the two best things I think I put on games.
So can we expect any of those features on future designs?
You never know. Or maybe something better, who knows?
Well, we can only hope for that. For now, I would like to wrap this up and take a 5-minute break, and everybody interested in winning prizes should stick around, because we're going to do a quiz, and we got a bunch of prizes donated from Stern Pinball, Jersey Jack Pinball, Dutch Pinball. Pinball Magazine donated a bunch of prizes as well. So Martin, Ayub and I are going to do this So You Think You Know Pinball quiz. We'd love to see you for that in like 5 minutes. For now, please give it up for Barry Oursler.